Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hope Church. My name's Joel. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm delighted to be with you here this morning on this beautiful morning. Did you notice anything when you came in? Air conditioned, yeah. And here's the thing. So Jason, our deacon of facilities, developed like the plan is it's 6 units, system of redundancy. So if one fails, there's 5 that work. 2 fails, there's 4 that work. And this is only 2 that are running right now. It feels this good, so it's beautiful. The door to the sanctuary was closed this morning, and I was like standing there. I was like, okay, please don't be a sauna when I open this thing. I walked in. I was like, we need to turn the heat on. It's chilly in here, but I'm so glad that you're here. I just want to give a shout out to Wendy for leading worship today. Hopefully you have at least one person in your life, or a few people, hopefully, who just kind of whenever you see them, whenever you're around them, they just make you smile, and they just are such a display of joy. That's Wendy for me. And so I just love being able to learn underneath her and worship underneath her leadership. It's just incredible. So thanks, Wendy. I wanted to start really quick just by thanking you all for something. The week after Easter, particularly the Sunday after Easter, in the ministry world, a lot of times is really hard for pastors. A lot of pastors experience just kind of like a come down, because Easter week can be such a high, right? And then it's literally like Sunday gets done, you go home, it's like kind of back to normal, and there's just this like kind of depression that sets in. And it's a very common, well-known thing that happens in ministry. And I just want to thank you all. I don't feel that. And I think a lot of that is because you all as a family here facilitate a space where there's not added pressure on a weekend like Easter. We don't refer to it as like the Super Bowl of Sundays, like a lot of people refer to it as. It is the whole reason why we're here, Easter is, but it's something that we proclaim every Sunday. And so I just want to thank you for giving me the freedom and the peace to come off of Easter Sunday and just like be excited for today and be excited for this past week. It's been beautiful. And so thank you. If you don't hear that, thank you for that. But last weekend, as we walked through, we had our Good Friday service, and then we did 36 hours of prayer in here. There was prayer happening here for 36 hours straight. There were people in the sanctuary praying over this space and over you all, and it was such a beautiful weekend. But by nature, one of the major things that we talked about is that we celebrated the overwhelming grace and mercy and love and forgiveness of God displayed for us on the cross, right? But that moment, one of the things that we talked about isn't something that just happened in the past. It's something that's happening now in real time. And so we talked about the need for us to actually enter into crucifixion, enter into resurrection. And when we experience the grace and mercy of God at the cross, we are then called into communities marked by those same things, us living those things out together in community. That has to be our response. Otherwise, we're missing something. If we experience the overwhelming love of God and then we don't in turn to others and start expressing that to others and allowing that to flow out of us, we're missing something. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Like, what's our response? What does it mean for us then, coming off of Easter weekend? And so we're going to talk through 4 major things. Very simple, practical ways in which the cross affects our relationships. The first one, we're going to just get right into it. The cross, like we talked about last Sunday, is a personal invitation. One of the things we talked about with crucifixion, with resurrection, these are not private things, but they are personal. They are personal. We talked about the fact that at the tomb, Mary Magdalene was waiting outside of the tomb, And when she looks and she sees the resurrected Christ, she doesn't know who he is at first. Quick pop quiz, who does she think he is? The gardener. Good job. And so as she's going on and she's asking questions, what did we talk about? What does he do to let her know who he is? He just says her name, right? And that was the basis for us recognizing that the cross, the resurrection, is a personal invitation, not private, but personal. That Jesus knows your name and he's calling you by it to come to him. The resurrection is something for us to enter into. And it's important for us to understand that this personal invitation to come to Christ, to come and lay our burdens down, to come to the foot of the cross, there is one cross, right? One cross. So that means that by default, if we answer that invitation by coming to the cross, as we come to the cross and we look up, we are surrounded by everybody else who has come to the cross. And so it inevitably brings us to a place where it starts as a personal invitation, but then we look around us and see that there's a bunch of other people around us. This is a communal place. It's not a private place. It's personal and it's communal. 2 Corinthians 5:14 through 15. For Christ's love compels us because we are convinced that one died for all and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. You see, the deeply personal experience of Christ's invitation for us to come to the cross, his sacrificial love, our response should be that we look up and see others around us and we start to minister to those around us. We can't help. If we are at the foot of the cross, we can't help but see others around us. It's where we begin no longer just living for ourselves, but for him and consequently others. Because the experience of God's grace, true, genuine grace in our lives, should reshape our lives and relationships and compel us toward community. That true grace that we experience from God is a force that's so powerful that it strips away pretense and it strips away arrogance. And it starts to shift our worldview from being self-centric to being Christ-centric, which is by default others-centric. Does that make sense? Are you tracking? Cool. 1 John 4:9 through 11. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. John is making this very clear connection here between experiencing the personal mercy of Christ's sacrifice and the then response of extending that mercy toward others. It's a very clear connection. Because we are not merely recipients. Listen to this, friends. We are not merely recipients of God's love and grace and mercy and forgiveness. We are now, once we receive it, we then become vessels of it. Right? We become vessels carrying these things. Most likely, for many of us, if not all of us in this room, one of the major ways that we experience the grace and mercy of God is through the lives of someone else whom God is using. For me, I mess up all the time. I know you guys are like, what? It's true. I saw Richard. You were shocked. It's true. I mess up all the time. And one of the major ways that I experience and am reminded of the grace and mercy of God is through my brothers and sisters here. Through leaders, through lay leaders, through members. That's how I largely experience God's grace and mercy, is through his vessels. It's because we are called to not just be recipients, but be instruments of these things. Instruments of mercy, instruments of grace. And so the question coming at the end of this one, have you truly grappled with the overwhelming love of God that was demonstrated for you on the cross? Like truly grappled with it, not just intellectually, but personally. Like before service, the band and all the people like kind of running the show this morning, we took communion together so that they didn't have to like rush at the end. It was a beautiful moment. And one of the things that we did together was we spent a few moments, and we're going to get the opportunity to do this at the end of this message together, grappling with, what did the Lord save me from? What did the Lord save me from? And a lot of us, we're a very transparent, vulnerable community. We know one another's stories. Most of us, we know one another's stories. But even still, there are things in the shadows and the recesses of our minds and hearts that maybe we're the only ones that are aware of. And so we have to go internal and see truly the depth of what God saved us from. Because it's then and only then can we truly start to overflow with that love and mercy for others. Otherwise, if we don't do that, that's where we get that holier than thou thing. We're like, yeah, I was bad, but like, you're really bad. No. We have to grapple with what we've been saved from. And we will never fully get to the bottom of it. But we can at least wrestle with it to hopefully break us down to live lives of humility, overflowing with these beautiful things that the Lord has shown us. As we grapple with this, the question then is, how does our personal encounter with God's mercy shape the way that we interact with others around us? Right here in this room, in our neighborhoods, in our homes, at our workplace, wherever it is that we go, where we spend our weeks. Are our interactions with others being informed by the love that God has shown us? You see, we must, as a church family, be a community that's shaped by these things. This mercy and grace that we experience, that we receive from Christ, we extend it to others. Because if we don't do that, if that's not our heart, if that's not our goal, then we are not living as the body of Christ. And so the first point was that the cross is a personal invitation into what? The cross is an invitation into cruciform community. It's our second thing. The cross is an invitation into cruciform community. If you're not familiar with that word, cruciform just simply means cross-shaped. Cross-shaped. All of these at the stations of the cross, these are cruciform pictures. They're cross-shaped. You see, a cruciform or a cross-shaped community is shaped by and defined by the self-giving, sacrificial love of the cross. It does no good to just simply talk about and think about love and mercy and grace and all of these beautiful things from God that we've personally received and experienced. They have to then be redistributed. Colossians 3:12 through 14. Part of this is what Grace read a few moments ago. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if anyone has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. To be a cruciform community, a cross-shaped community, means that we have to learn to become a people whose collective life, meaning our life together, we do life together, we interact with one another, we spend time in one another's homes, we share meals together, we go to games together, whatever, we do life together, that collective life, that life is intentionally being shaped by the cross. Like we said, we keep saying it, we said it last week a ton, that the cross, the crucifixion, the resurrection, these are not just things that happened historically, they are a way of life. They're a way of life, and they should define how we relate to one another. It ultimately defines how we love and journey together toward Christ's likeness. I think about that Hebrews 10:24 passage. It says, "Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds." That's cruciform community. And this is an extreme call. We are not just called to be friendly people who gather weekly. It's very easy to do that thing. It's very easy to do the plastic smile, pleated pants, like showing up just morning. That thing, right? That's fine, but it has to go deeper than that. We're not called to just be friendly people who gather weekly. We are called into extreme humility, extreme mutual submission, extreme forgiveness, extreme patience and grace, reflecting together on Jesus' extremely radical, sacrificial love. It's so much more than us just coming together on a Sunday morning and shaking hands and checking in and then just going back to our thing throughout the week. That's not it. We don't just appreciate these things about God. We don't just talk about them, these things that we've experienced. We actively embody them toward one another. We are engaged in trench warfare. In this Colossians passage, Paul helps to define something that we talk fairly frequently about here, group identity. Group identity is something that's incredibly important for us to feel secure in our place in our family together. Group identity is just, this is who we are as a people, right? And so Paul in this Colossians passage is giving us like a description of our group identity as apprentices of Jesus. Right? Group identity is so important. It's why every week we say our mission statement. We want to remind ourselves as Hope Church, this is our group identity. This is who we are. We are a people who exist to bring hope to our community by practicing the way of Jesus. That's who we are, right? Group identity is so important, and that's what Paul is tapping into here. He says, look, you are a chosen people, holy and dearly loved. That's who you are. Whoa, we just sang that. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's cool. That was like totally accidental. That's who we are. A chosen people, holy and dearly loved. Okay, so we are a chosen people, holy and dearly loved. So what? Well, because we are that, listen, out of response to that, we are to clothe ourselves in compassion and humility and gentleness and kindness and patience. I love that. Paul tells us this is who you are, and because of it, this is how you look. This is how you live. And I love that he says, clothe yourselves. We kind of just like gloss over it, but that's a strange word to use. But when you think about it, it's the perfect word to use. Being clothed in these things, because what do we do every morning when we wake up? Hopefully, like at some point, before we leave the house. We get dressed. We clothe ourselves, right? Paul's saying this because, look, it's a choice. It's a choice. Every morning that we wake up, we choose what outfit we're going to put on. I chose this wonderful little number, Target jeans, little Target tee. Actually, I think it's a true classic tee. I chose this, okay? I had it ready actually last night. I set it out. I don't normally do that, but I did it last night. I was like way ahead of the game. I chose what I was going to wear That's what we do with these things. These things don't just happen. We don't just wake up and go out and we naturally walk in humility and compassion and gentleness and kindness. And we don't do that naturally. We have to choose to clothe ourselves in these things. We actively choose to wear these. And when we do, that's what becomes evident to the world around us when we wear these. There's a passage that reinforces this idea of cruciform community, cross-shaped community, Philippians 2, 3 through 5. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. So what does it look like practically for us to live in cruciform, cross-shaped community together? Well, we could talk about it to the day we all pass, and we still wouldn't get to like all of it. But here's a few things, okay? Cruciform community practically looks like this, that conflict is handled differently. Conflict within our family is handled differently. Conflict with other people, when we're involved, is handled differently. We shouldn't respond with defensiveness or avoidance, but we should respond with reconciliation and humility and being proactive about it. Now, that doesn't mean that we rush to it. A lot of times we have to process some things. Things hurt. We have to walk through some. It's the long game. But it makes me think of that Ephesians 4, 26 and 27 passage where Paul writes to the church in Ephesus, do not let the sun go down on your anger. A lot of times we read that and we think, okay, well, we got to get this settled before like nightfall, you know? I think there's the heart behind that's kind of cool. But what Paul is saying in this is, look, make sure that you are actively, no matter how long it takes, actively seeking reconciliation with those that have wronged you or that you have wronged them, where there's conflict. Be actively seeking reconciliation no matter how long it takes. Because if you don't, what happens is the sun goes down on your anger. And what Jesus talks about in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew when he says, you've heard it said, thou shalt not murder. I tell you, don't hate anyone. Don't harbor any anger in your heart against someone. It's the same as murder. That's what Paul is writing here. And when the sun goes down on our anger, the bone that we have to pick with someone, when we let the sun go down on that and we're not actively seeking reconciliation, we're just closing the coffin. That person is now dead to me. We've murdered them in our mind. That's what happens. And so we handle conflict differently no matter how long it takes. We are actively and humbly seeking reconciliation with one another. Second thing is that we exhibit a grace that expects hard things. Look, we hate sin. We fight against sin, but we are not thrown off guard by it when it happens. When someone's life, when my life or someone's life, there's a sin struggle there, and they confess it or they come to us or whatever happens, we're not like shaken by it. We're ready to attack the sin. We're ready to walk with that person with persistent grace and mercy and forgiveness and patience. We're not scared of it. We're not thrown off by it. There's a grace that expects hard things. The third thing, humility becomes normative. Humility in our paid staff, our leaders, our lay leaders, our members, humility has to be normative in this cruciform community. We lay down pride, ego, convenience, preference. And the last thing, this is a tough one, generosity that costs. Cruciform community inevitably is going to call us to places where we are going to have to give time, resources, emotional bandwidth, comfort when it hurts and it's not convenient. But we're called to have these things be investments that we willingly give. Now I say that and want to just say again that's an incredibly hard one to encourage. Because if we aren't careful, if we're not walking with one another and looking out for one another and have each other's back, this is the one that leads straight to burnout. And so I say that with that in mind, recognizing that that can only be done. We can only live a life where we're actually exhibiting a generosity that costs if we have each other's backs as brothers and sisters. We have to be looking out for one another. Hey, I got it from here. Why don't you take a little bit of time? I got it. Let me handle this. We have to be doing that. And so the question this morning, I know this was a lot in this point, but are we doing these things together? Are we handling conflict differently? Or is the way we handle conflict just kind of looks the same as in the world? Are we exhibiting a grace that's not scared of hard things? Is humility normative? And if I had to answer this question right now, I believe we are, yes. I believe we can grow in it, just like anybody, but I believe we are doing these things. And I say that because every single day I am engaged in conversations with individuals and couples and families and all across the board, all within our body, and I know that these things are happening on the daily. I see it constantly. So as we live like this, we clearly see that there's this pretty wild tension that we walk. Why? Well, the third, cruciform community means that we share together in both beauty and burden. And beauty and burden. I want to start with the beauty. Before we talk about the burdens, we have to understand that to share in Christ's cross is to also share in the beauty. You see, the cross was not just some instrument of death. It is a doorway, it is the doorway to life, resurrection life, eternal, true life. A new kind of life where love defines everything. When we truly live in cross-shaped, cruciform community, we aren't just signing up for heartache and hard conversations like that. That's a part of it. Yeah, there's a lot. But we are stepping into this breathtaking beauty of seeing God work through and in one another. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. We get this front row seat to hear these resurrection stories, not just hear, but be a part of them. Marriages healed, addictions broken, identities restored, hope reborn. We get to celebrate victories. Like when somebody forgives for the first time in years, decades even. When a wandering soul finally comes home to Jesus. These are beautiful things that in cross-shaped cruciform community we get to enjoy. We taste the goodness of God, not just individually, but collectively, together as a family. Cruciform community family is where the beauty of the kingdom becomes tangible. It's where love takes on flesh again. And the everyday faithfulness of God's people to one another. And the beauty is not just what God does for us, but what he does through us as we live our lives together, this collective life, weaving our lives together into something so much more glorious and beautiful than we could ever have created on our own. But we know that carrying one another's burdens is just as much a part of this. It's often the road that leads to beauty, though. To share in Christ's cross is not just benefiting what Jesus has done, from what Jesus has done for us. We have to actively join in his radical mission of and call to love. We step into places of pain. We carry burdens alongside others. We bear patiently and graciously with all of the imperfections within us and around us. And we shouldn't be doing this begrudgingly or passively. We oftentimes see that when marriages die, when friendships die, when relationships die, a lot of times they get to that place because we have this idea that we're just called to just kind of passively endure one another. But when we look at Christ on the cross, he did not endure the cross passively. He actively embraced love and chose this. He actively pursued love, embraced it on the cross. We don't just tolerate each other or coexist politely. We are invited into actively, sacrificially engaging in one another's lives. Galatians 6, 2 through 3. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. We're not just called into random acts of kindness. Those are beautiful, good things. We keep doing them. But Paul is describing cruciform community in its most basic, purest, rawest sense. That we enter into one another's hardship and sorrow and grief and messiness together. Just as Christ took on the burdens of humanity, so do we. Not out of obligation, but out of love and out of the overflow of the mercy and grace that we have received. Thinking about these things, and a person that came to mind, I didn't ask him if I could talk about him, but it's all good. He's the homie, so. But many of you know Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly is one of my dearest friends, spends a ton of time with my family and I. Ryan works for Hustle Recovery, and he's over all of the houses. Hustle Recovery is an addiction and recovery treatment program. It's so many things. We can't even cover it all right now. But Ryan is one of the main guys there, okay? Hustle Recovery, they all come here. Well, some of them go to Zeal. But most of them come here. It's fine. But Ryan works for Hustle. And Ryan, if you don't know his story, I'm not going to share it. I encourage you. He's an open guy. You can ask him. But because of the grace and mercy and forgiveness and patience and kindness of God that Ryan has experienced in his life, he shows this to people all day, every day. People who are in and out of the program, people who have just graduated the program and go back into a life of addiction and need to and are calling almost days after they graduated, hey, I need help again. Boom, back in. Where most people would be like, hey, no, we already tried. Go somewhere else. Ryan, every single day, is answering this call. He's patiently and lovingly and mercifully and graciously walking with people in hardship, sorrow, grief, pain, addiction, all of these different things. Every single day he does it. Every day, all day. And the only way, I know him personally very well, the only way I know he has the strength to do this is because he remembers each day what the Lord has rescued him from. So I want to say thanks, Ryan, for being a beautiful example of this, man. I love you, brother. Yeah. You want to give a speech or anything? Okay, yeah. Also, Jasmine pointed this out in the sermon walk through this past week. I wasn't going to do this, but this is a shameless plug. Hustle has their graduation tonight. So if you're free this evening at 5:30, 6 o'clock, come and see some of the Hustle graduates graduating. And I will tell you, before you come, it's pretty raw. It's pretty intense. So just kind of be ready, okay? It's a beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite things. I'll be here tonight. A bunch of us will be here at that graduation, but shameless plug for that. But the question here, as we kind of start to land the plane, whose burdens are you actively helping to bear right now? Are your relationships, are most of them marked more by comfort and convenience? Or are they marked by genuine cruciform love? Like, are we willingly walking with people, carrying burdens, enjoying beauty? That's kind of the easy part, but are we carrying burdens with one another? My encouragement for all of us is to actively step into places where you have these opportunities. Our church family is one of those opportunities. So, like, if you're just kind of been living on the periphery of this community, beautiful. I love that you're here. I love that you're like with us. But step into it. Like, actively engage. We have ministry partners and community groups and all different kind of beautiful places for us to step into and actually experience these things that I'm talking about this morning. This isn't just some like nebulous up here intellectual thing. This is like real practical living. The opportunity's right here before you. And so I encourage you, if you haven't, step into opportunities to be able to do this. Where you have the opportunity to sit with people in sadness and heartache and grief, and also celebrate with people and rejoice in the beautiful things that God's doing in their lives. I encourage us, listen patiently to difficult stories, struggles, complaints, without rushing to try to fix things or trying to end the conversation so we can get on to our next thing. Like patiently sitting and listening. Show persistent kindness in difficult relational dynamics. This is a tough one for me. Even with challenging people. Especially with challenging people. And we do this because this is the kind of mercy that Jesus showed us first. I want to close out with this as we lead into communion. This is something that I've been talking about a ton with Tracy, and just trying to kind of explore. And it feels a bit, it can feel a bit speculative, but I truly think that there's biblical support for what I'm about to say. If I didn't, I wouldn't say it. Many of us are familiar with Matthew 16:24, where Jesus says that if anyone wants to become my followers, what's he say? Take up your, don't cheat. Take up your cross and follow me, right? We're familiar with that. Most of us are probably familiar with that. We've heard that before. Jesus says, if you want to follow me, take up your cross. Deny yourself, take up your cross, follow me. And I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, what Jesus actually meant here I'm not doing that. Because the main thing of what Jesus means here is that typical kind of teaching that we get from this. It's this cross, this individual cross of self-denial, that we're dying to our flesh. We are choosing to clothe ourselves in humility, compassion, kindness, right? That there is that. We take up our cross each day, we follow Christ. I'm not saying that that's not it. But also, and this is where I've been like, what if? And I think this is it. I think this is a part that we don't talk about a lot, but I think if we were to say it, Jesus would be like, yeah, of course, yes, that's it. This passage, take up your cross, follow me. Could it also be that Jesus is implying, say that roughly all 8 billion people in the world were Christians? And that Jesus is saying this to all 8 billion people. It's not necessarily that there's 8 billion different crosses, but that our cross to carry was his cross. So there's one cross for us to take up. There's one cross that we come up under. It's the cross of Christ, where all of us, every background, every burden, every bit of brokenness, all of it, we are invited to come and lay our lives down. It's one cross that calls us into new life, not alone, but together. That wherever we go, we're not necessarily carrying our own private crosses everywhere we go. We're all up underneath the cross of Christ. That's why when we see in Scripture where one stumbles, it affects the whole body. That doesn't happen if we're all just individually carrying our own things. No, when we all carry the cross of Christ together, when we come up underneath of that, then when somebody stumbles, we all feel it. When somebody celebrates, we all feel it. Because we're walking together under the banner of Christ, this one cross. You carry the cross of Christ, it's a reminder that your life is no longer your own, that your story is now bound up in His, that your burdens are meant to be carried in community, not in isolation. The cross you bear is the cross He bore. And now through you, it offers the same invitation to the world. To lay your life down, to take up His love, to enter into His mercy, and then to let it overflow out of you into the world around you. And this is exactly what we remember. This is exactly what we proclaim when we come to the communion table. See, communion, it's not a solo event. It's a shared act. It's this cruciform moment. It's a cross-shaped moment where we in community gather together to take this meal, the meal of our adoption. And so when we come here, we say, the cross of Christ, it's my cross, it's your cross, because it's His cross. And it is enough for all of us.